Right then, Forest fans, gather round, because what I'm about to tell you will absolutely shake you to your core. The city ground is in complete and utter chaos right now. And I mean chaos with a capital C. Something massive is happening behind the scenes at our beloved club. Something that could change everything we thought we knew about this season. We're talking about relationships crumbling, power struggles, transfer wars, and decisions that could define our entire future. And I've got the inside scoop on all of it. Listen, I've got 5 absolutely explosive revelations that are gonna leave you speechless. We're talking about our gaffer's future hanging by a thread, secret transfer battles worth millions, players caught in the crossfire, and names being thrown around as potential replacements that'll make your head spin. But here's the thing. Before I dive into this madness, I need to ask you something crucial. Do you really think our ownership knows what they're doing right now? Because what's happening suggests they might be completely lost in the woods, right? If you want to hear these bombshells, you need to smash that like button right now and drop a comment telling me whether you think Nuno should stay or go. Because trust me, after what you're about to hear, your opinion might completely change. The first revelation involves a fallout so massive that 2 of the most powerful men at our club aren't even speaking to each other anymore. We're talking about a breakdown that's described as potentially irreparable by those in the know. And when I tell you who's involved and what caused this nuclear explosion, you're gonna understand why everything feels so unstable right now. This isn't just gossip. This isn't just speculation. This is the real deal, backed up by sources from inside the club, and it explains why everything feels so bloody chaotic lately. So stick with me, Forest faithful, because the first bombshell is gonna blow your mind. He's the man who brought us back from the brink last season, the Portuguese mastermind who secured European football when nobody believed we could do it. But right now his relationship with one particular individual has completely and utterly imploded. I'm talking about Nuno Espirito Santo, and the crisis surrounding him isn't what you think it is. See? Everyone's been talking about his relationship with Marinakis changing, and yes, that's true. But the real story, the one that's tearing our club apart from the inside, involves our new global head of football, the man who came in with big promises and even bigger connections, Edu Gaspar. Here's what actually happened, Forest fans, and this is straight from The Athletic's Daniel Taylor. Nuno and Edu's relationship didn't just go wrong, it was rotten from day one. From the very first meeting, there were hostilities. It blew up almost immediately, according to those close to the situation. But why? What could cause such an instant and explosive hatred between 2 professionals? It all comes down to power, control, and the transfer market. Edu arrived with Kia Joorabchian as his close ally. You know, the super agent who's got his fingers in pies all over Europe. Meanwhile, Nuno's represented by Jorge Mendes, who used to be Marinakis' go-to man for transfers. But here's the kicker. Mendes hasn't been involved in a single Forest transfer since June 2024. That's right, Nuno's own agent has been completely frozen out. And it's all because of Edu's influence. Talk about a slap in the face. The situation got so bad that Edu has actually been staying away from our training ground. Can you imagine that? The global head of football avoiding the training ground because he can't stand being in the same building as our manager. And it gets worse. Reports suggest Nuno was absolutely fuming when Edu blocked a move for Adama Traore, forcing us to sign Dan Ndoye from Bologna instead. Then there's the Douglas Luiz situation. Apparently Nuno was against that signing too, but Edu pushed it through anyway. This is a man who's been described as the aggressor in this conflict. Outspoken in the extreme, according to those who know. But can you blame him? His authority is being undermined at every turn by someone who's supposed to be working alongside him, not against him. The most damning part? Sources say this damage is potentially irreparable. How? We're talking about 2 men who are so at odds that they can't even have a civilized conversation, let alone work together to improve our club. So here's my question for you. In a battle between the manager who got us into Europe and the transfer guru with the fancy connections, whose side are you on? Comment below and let me know, because the next revelation shows just how deep this rabbit hole goes. They're the ones who actually have to go out there and perform every weekend, the ones who put their bodies on the line for the shirt. But when news broke that could change everything at the club, how did they react? I'm talking about our Nottingham Forest squad. And their response to the chaos tells us everything we need to know about what's really happening behind closed doors. Picture this. Friday morning, rumors are flying that Nuno might be gone before Sunday's match against Crystal Palace. The training ground is buzzing with speculation. Journalists are calling it a potential sacking, and our players are walking into what should be a normal training session knowing their manager might not be there much longer. Nuno himself revealed exactly what happened, and his words should send chills down your spine. They also are aware of things in the morning, and I can see in their faces. Think about that for a moment. Our manager, the man who's supposed to project strength and confidence, could see the worry and uncertainty written across his players' faces. These are professional footballers who've dealt with pressure before, but even they couldn't hide their concern about what was happening above them. But here's what really gets me. Despite all this chaos, despite knowing their gaffer might be heading for the exit door, Nuno still backed his players completely. He said, "No matter where I went and was working, if something happens and the day that I leave, I look back, are the players better than when I arrived?" And honestly, I think this is their case. That's class, that is. Pure class from a manager who's clearly hurting but still putting his squad first. The question everyone was asking, would this mess actually distract the players against Palace? And Nuno's response was brutally honest. Of course there's a risk of distraction, but then he showed exactly why these players respect him so much. This is our job, to isolate them from all the noises coming around. They have to stick to their tasks, and for sure this is going to happen on Sunday. This is what we have to do, because no matter what is said, on Sunday 2 p.m. the ball will be rolled and there'll be two teams with good players playing for the game. Professional to the core, even when his world is falling apart. But think about what this means for our squad. These are players who've bought into Nuno's system, who flourished under his guidance, who helped us achieve something magical last season. Morgan Gibbs-White, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Anthony Elanga, they've all improved dramatically under this manager. Now they're watching him fight for his job, not because of poor results, but because of politics and personality clashes in the boardroom. How's that supposed to make them feel? How can they give everything when they don't know if their leader will still be there next week? Here's the thing that really bothers me. These players deserve better than being caught in the middle of a power struggle between adults who should know how to work together professionally. What do you think? Are our players strong enough to rise above this chaos? Or is this exactly the kind of distraction that could derail our entire season? Drop your thoughts below, because what I'm about to tell you about our transfer dealings will show you just how deep this dysfunction runs. While our club's been tearing itself apart from the inside, guess what's been happening in the transfer market? Other clubs have been circling like vultures, ready to snatch targets right from under our noses. There's this electric winger, this absolutely rapid talent who could transform any team's attacking output, and we've been locked in a proper battle for his signature. I'm talking about Delane Bakwa from RC Strasbourg. And the fight for this lad shows you everything that's wrong with how we're operating right now. Here's what happened. We put in a $26 million bid for Bakwa earlier in the window, and Strasbourg told us where to stick it. They rejected it outright, wanting closer to $28 million for their prized asset. Fair enough, that's how negotiations work, right? But here's where it gets mental. While we were fanning about with our internal politics and power struggles, Leeds United have come steaming in with a $30 million offer that's ready to blow us out of the water. Think about that for a second. Leeds, a team that got promoted from the Championship, are now outbidding us for our targets. That's where we are right now, folks. That's the level we've dropped to while Nuno and Edu have been having their little spat. Bakwa isn't just any ordinary winger either. This 22-year-old French talent had 8 assists in Ligue 1 last season. Only 5 players could better that record, including PSG's Bradley Barcola and Manchester City's Rayon Cherki. The lad's got genuine quality, the kind of pace and creativity that could unlock any defense. He's left-footed, operates primarily from the right wing, and he's exactly the type of playmaker winger that modern football demands. Someone who can stretch defenses, create chances, and provide that spark of magic when games are tight. But instead of securing his signature, we've been distracted by boardroom drama and ended up signing Omari Hutchinson and James McAtee instead. Don't get me wrong, they're decent players, but Bakwa was the original target for a reason. According to transfer expert Sasha Tavolieri, Leeds are now leading the race for Bakwa and are ready to meet Strasbourg expectations with their $30 million bid. Meanwhile, we're described as having not left the race, but being behind the newly promoted side. How's that for a reality check? A team that's just come up from the championship is now ahead of us in the transfer market because they can act decisively while we're paralyzed by internal conflicts. The Guardian called Bakwa electric on the wings and described his impact at Strasbourg as outstanding. This is exactly the kind of player who could have given us that extra edge in European competition, that bit of magic to unlock stubborn defenses. Instead, Daniel Farke's side are about to gazump us because they can make quick decisions while our decision makers are too busy fighting each other to focus on actually improving the squad. It's absolutely maddening when you think about it. Here we are, qualified for European football for the first time in decades, and we're being outmaneuvered by a team that's just been promoted. Is this what happens when you have a manager and a sporting director who can't even be in the same room together? Are we going to keep missing out on quality targets because our hierarchy is more interested in playing politics than building a competitive squad? Let me know what you think, because the next bombshell is going to show you exactly who's being lined up to replace Nuno if this all goes to hell. If the worst happens, if our Portuguese manager does get the boot because of this power struggle nonsense, then who's going to step into those shoes? Who's got the balls and the tactical nous to handle this absolute circus? Well, the bookies have their favorites, and the name at the top of that list will absolutely blow your mind. We're talking about Jose Mourinho, the special one himself, being linked with a City Ground hot seat. Now, before you start laughing or thinking this is just media nonsense, hear me out. On paper, Mourinho makes perfect sense for what we need right now. He's a manager who knows how to set up teams defensively, who understands the importance of counter-attacking football, and who's got the personality to handle whatever political nonsense is going on upstairs. His style isn't miles away from what Nuno's been doing with us. Both managers prefer that lower block defensive approach. Both like to hit teams on the break. Both understand that in the Premier League, you sometimes need to be pragmatic rather than pretty. But here's the massive problem. Mourinho's currently at Fenerbahce, and by all accounts, he's loving life in Istanbul. The Turkish club have backed him heavily in the transfer market. They're treating him like royalty, and he's got a genuine chance to win trophies there. So the question becomes, would Jose really swap the sunshine of Turkey and the adoration of Fenerbahce fans for the absolute chaos that's currently consuming our club? Would he want to walk into a situation where the sporting director and the previous manager were at each other's throats? Knowing Mourinho's ego, there's probably a part of him that would relish the challenge. He's never been one to back down from a fight, and sorting out our mess might appeal to his sense of being the man who can fix anything. But let's be realistic here. The chances of getting Mourinho are slim to none. It would take an absolutely massive financial offer, and given our PSR concerns and the money we've already spent this summer, that seems unlikely. So who else is in the frame? Well, Ange Postecoglou is apparently the 2-1 favorite with the bookmakers. Now that's an interesting shout, isn't it? The former Tottenham and Celtic boss knows the Premier League, he's got experience dealing with big personalities and boardroom politics, and his attacking style would be a complete 180 from what we're used to. Postecoglou's football is the polar opposite of Nuno's approach. High pressing, aggressive attacking, players bombing forward at every opportunity. It would be fascinating to see how our current squad would adapt to that kind of system. But here's what worries me about all these replacement talks. Are we really going to sack a manager who got us into Europe because he can't get along with a sporting director who's been here 5 minutes? Think about what Nuno achieved last season. 7th place in the Premier League. European qualification. Some of the most exciting football we've played in years. Players developing and improving under his guidance. A genuine connection with the fans. And we're gonna throw all that away because Edu Gaspar can't handle being challenged on his transfer decisions. It's absolutely mental when you put it like that. We've finally got stability, finally got a manager who understands the club and the league, and we're gonna bin him off for politics. But maybe that's just football in 2025. Maybe having the right relationships upstairs is more important than actually coaching the team and getting results on the pitch. What do you reckon? Would you take Mourinho or Postecoglou if it meant getting rid of this toxic atmosphere? Or should we be doing everything possible to keep hold of Nuno and sort out these personality clashes like adults? Comment below with your choice, because my final thoughts are going to tie all this madness together. So there you have it, Forest fans. 5 bombshells that explain exactly why everything feels so chaotic right now, why our season feels like it could go either way, and why we're all sitting here wondering what the hell is happening to our beloved club. Let me put this all together for you, because when you step back and look at the bigger picture, it's both tragic and infuriating at the same time. We've got a manager who delivered European football, something most of us thought we'd never see again, but he's fighting for his job not because of poor results, but because he can't get along with a sporting director who arrived 5 minutes ago with big ideas and even bigger connections. We've got players who are clearly unsettled by all this uncertainty, trying to prepare for matches while wondering if their gaffer will still be there next week. These are the same players who flourished under Nuno's guidance and helped us achieve something magical last season. We've got transfer targets being snatched away by newly promoted teams because we can't make quick decisions when our hierarchy is more interested in playing politics than building a competitive squad. And we've got bookmakers taking bets on Jose Bloody Mourinho becoming our next manager, which tells you everything about how seriously this situation has become. But here's what really gets to me. This was supposed to be our moment. After decades of mediocrity, relegation battles, and disappointment, we finally had something special building. European nights at the City Ground, players wanting to join us rather than leave, a manager who understood the culture and the expectations. Instead, we're potentially about to throw it all away because grown men can't put their egos aside and work together professionally. Vangelis Marinakis finds himself in an impossible position. He's got to choose between backing the manager who delivered European football and the sporting director he brought in to modernize our recruitment. Sky's Rob Dorsett says Marinakis wants some kind of unity and doesn't want any further distractions for a squad which he feels is strongest for decades. And you know what? He's absolutely right about that squad strength. This is the best Forest team we've had since the glory days, and it would be criminal to waste it on boardroom politics. The clock is ticking though. The transfer window closes soon, Crystal Palace are coming to the City Ground, and every day this circus continues is another day we're not focusing on what actually matters, winning football matches. My prediction, I think Nuno survives this, but only just. I think Marinakis realizes that changing managers now would be complete madness, and I think eventually Edu will either adapt or find himself looking for a new job. But the damage might already be done. The trust is broken, the atmosphere is toxic, and our European campaign could suffer because we've spent the summer fighting ourselves instead of preparing to compete. Here's what I want to know from you. Are you confident this club can pull together and make something special happen this season? Or do you think this dysfunction is going to derail everything we've worked towards? And more importantly, if you could fix one thing about this entire mess, what would it be? Smash that like button if this video opened your eyes to what's really happening at Forest. Subscribe for more inside information that you won't get anywhere else. And tell me in the comments, Team Nuno or Team Edu? Because mark my words, Forest faithful, how we handle this crisis will define not just this season, but the next few years of our club's history. We're at a crossroads, and the decisions made in the next few weeks will determine whether we build on last season's success or watch it all crumble because of petty politics and wounded egos. Stay strong, keep the faith, and let's hope common sense prevails at the City Ground.